COVID has done many things for our company, both negative and positive. And in the vein of trying to be positive about what it's done for us is having these regular town hall meetings. And we're doing alternating town hall meetings where it's basically internal, talking about the goings and comings of the company, what's going on, future, et cetera, et cetera. And every other one, we're trying to bring an outside speaker. And outside speakers to talk about many different subjects. And actually in the last town hall meeting, I talked to a lot of you employees about coming up with ideas for content for this. And in light of our last experience with Contrell Jackson, who I see has joined our call today as well, thrilled to have him on the call. And the feedback was extremely positive to talk about social justice. I see Marv's having issues with audio. I hope we don't have an issue here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay.
All right. So Marvin is a good friend of ours at Cannabis BPO, and in our family of companies, one of the things we want to talk about last time when we brought up the issue of social justice is the issue specifically of cannabis and social justice. And it's a very layered, complicated, interesting, opportunistic subject. And Marvin and I got to know each other at some of the conferences. I got to hear him speak with some of the giants in the cannabis industry. And, you know, coming from pharma and going to cannabis, one of our goals is to try and bridge that world between traditional pharma and medicine and what we think is the future of medicine, is plant-based medicines, not just cannabis, but all plant-based medicines. And we're trying as a company to ride that wave, obviously, to take advantage of what we think is a huge trend, and the numbers say so. But we can't do that successfully without thinking about the past. And that's, and Marvin will talk a little bit about the past, but you know, we have to acknowledge that cannabis and criminality have been intertwined in a way that has really damaged our society. And we're all starting to recognize that now, whether you're white or black. If you didn't know it before, you now know it. Black people, African Americans, people of color are 3 to 4 times as likely to be arrested for cannabis possession as a white person for something that many of us on this call do for medicine or for adult use recreation. It is become criminalized, and in a way that is no benefit to society. The only thing that we get from society is fines and incarceration and poverty that goes along with that. In the state of Georgia, right here in Georgia, the largest cash crop in this state is cannabis. It's illegal cannabis. $1 billion worth of cannabis is estimated to be grown right here, mostly in North Georgia mountains and remote areas. What's the benefit that this state gets from cannabis legalization? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. We get incarceration fees. We don't get any tax benefit. We don't get safe products. We don't get the playgrounds and the bicycle paths and the pickleball courts like they have in Colorado. And we now see this wave, especially with this new election coming in just a few weeks, an opportunity to really put the stamp in the ground. For those colleagues of ours in New Jersey, there's a ballot initiative to legalize cannabis adult use in the state of New Jersey, which will be transformational for the state of New Jersey. It will be the first really big Northeast state. And New Jersey and the Northeast corridor are going to play a big role, and New Jersey is going to be the epicenter of it. Georgia has lost that opportunity. Florida has taken that role in the Southeast and leading the way in medical. They're this close to legalizing it for adult use recreational. But in the meantime, we have people still going to jail to this day in Americus, in the country, going to jail. And it's time that we need to think about how to change that. In the city of America, in the city of Atlanta, in the city of Decatur, in the city of Athens, and 3 cities in this state, it is now decriminalized. It's a $150 fine. In the city of Atlanta airport, which is the largest airport in the world, it's now just a fine. So we're seeing a very, very slow equalization towards some type of justice. But we still see people going to jail. We see still people of color being fined. And working and meeting with Marvin and learning about the Last Prisoner Project, who I encourage all of you, we can post a link to that website to learn about the Last Prisoner Project, and learning about some of the things we can do moving forward and understanding some history. I really wanted Marv to talk about a lot about his knowledge base, because every time I talk to him, I'm blown away. So Marv is a former NFL player. Won a Super Bowl with Denver, I believe. And not only is he a towering giant in person, but he's a towering giant in our industry. And I want to welcome Marvin to our town hall meeting today. And I want to start with, kind of what we talked about, Marvin, when we first started talking about this subject. And I heard this term, and I thought at first it was hyperbolic and hyperbole. And no, it's not really true. But people told me cannabis can heal the world. And the more I hear it, no, and I didn't believe it at first. No, not really. And the more I dive into this at every level, I believe that from the bottom of my heart. Tell us what that means from your words, that cannabis can heal the world.
I started hearing it way back when in the 80s, and Bob Marley was the first person that I heard it from. And I thought it was, exaggerated and hyperbole also. And then once you get into this industry, you hear it a lot. But then once I did a deep dive into cannabis and hemp and CBD and THC, it's true. It can heal the world. It can heal this country of a lot of ills. And so you're talking about physically with addiction, you're talking about with some of the issues that we have with obesity, hypertension, diabetes, arthritis. Then you want to talk about the planet. I'm so bullish on hemp and what it can do for the planet, because hemp can disturb any market that it's going to go into. It's carbon negative. It's going to put carbon back into the air. It can, you talk about the $500 billion paper business. Hemp can crush that. You're talking about the $1.1 trillion plastic industry. Hemp can crush that. You're talking about the fiber and the cotton. That's 700 billion. Hemp can crush that. This thing, man, if we get behind it, it's a revolution, and it can heal the world, and it's going to lead the way for a healthier planet and healthier humans in the 21st century. And you're talking about saving the planet. Well, I'm not worried about the planet. The planet's going to be here. The planet's been here for millions of years. It's about saving us. So we need to get behind this, and it can save us. It can lead this revolution, this time of transition that this country, that the world is going through. I believe plant-based medicine, plant-based products can do that. And we need to get behind it. We need to legalize it, because once legalization comes, and I believe legalization is going to come within the next couple of years, you're going to see this thing really take off. I used to be a financial advisor planner. And so when I got into the public market back in 2001, it was the tech industry and all that. And there was probably $3 trillion in the public market in the tech industry. With legalization of cannabis and hemp and CBD and THC, there's going to be about 3 times that. It's going to be probably $10 trillion in coming into this industry, and it can change the world, and it can heal the world.
Well, it's a pretty powerful statement. I want to peel that onion back some more. And for everybody that's on this call, please, if you have questions, we want to leave a lot of room open for you. And please type them in the little chat box at the bottom, and we will, I'll start to interweave them into our discussion. It's one of the, let's start with hemp. Let's talk about hemp, and then we'll kind of move from hemp over to the other more complicated area. But hemp is simple. Hemp is a really, really easy issue. It grows like a weed. It's revenue per acre. A friend of mine said I can grow lettuce or I can grow hemp. I can get $5 a pound for lettuce, or I can make like 10 times that for hemp. And even as the hemp market plummets down, it's still an incredibly profitable crop. It's also can heal the soil. It can be used for all kinds of products, not just CBD. Talk to me about that.
Man, like I said before, I'm bullish on hemp. This country was founded on hemp. The Constitution was written on hemp. Our first Navy, from our mask and our ropes and some of our ships were built with hemp. Our founding fathers were hemp farmers. They knew we've been growing this plant for thousands of years. It's more durable than concrete, can build anything that you're in. It can serve any market, like I said, that it's going to go in, man. Hemp is going to be the thing that leads the world and shows us that plant-based products can be used in an environmental friendly way. You're talking about this country. I believe the manufacturing, everybody's always talking about the manufacturing jobs and bringing it back. I believe hemp can do that. I'm very bullish on this product because I just know that it can serve any market. And I just mentioned the three that you talked that I mentioned, from fiber and cotton to plastic to paper. We're talking about oil also. That's over probably $3 trillion right there, and it's environmental friendly. So once we get behind it, we're going to see what exactly it can do. And generations that come after us, they're going to look at us like we were cavemen because we were so far behind and we had this product and we didn't use it. We shut it off and we didn't use it for hundreds of years. And, you know, they're going to look at us like we were, you know, wearing animal clothes with big clubs. That's what they're going to look back and say, because hemp and cannabis is going to change the world.
I agree. And, you know, if you say hundreds of years, it's actually, cannabis has been a medicine for thousands of years. They just discovered, just recently, cannabis sativa in a dig in Jerusalem, in Israel. And it literally thousands of years old. Maimonides, who was one of the first, also known as the Rambam, wrote about cannabis as one of his go-to medicines. And as we talk about kind of moving from hemp into medicine, talk to us about, you know, what you see as the future of the medicinal part of the plant, how that can heal the world.
Well, let me say this about the medicinal part and the adult use part. With me, I think it's all medicine. I think cannabis is medicine because I've been in this industry for not as long as a lot of people have, but I've been in it since 2014. And I don't smoke the THC part, but I'm a big proponent of CBD. But the people who smoke THC, nobody's getting high just to get high. Everybody's getting high to feel better, you know? So the medicinal part that's the thing that's going to, like I said before, heal the nation. And once we get to R&D, the millions and billions and trillions of dollars of R&D behind this plant, we're going to see what all the cannabinoids doing. Everybody just want to hear about THC and CBD. There are so many other different cannabinoids, and it's going to, you know, the R&D is going to be a lot less expensive because it's a lot less expensive to study a plant than a single molecule. And once we know about all these cannabinoids, it's going to be like, you know, this is what the doctor is going to recommend, and not prescription. Like, he's going to tell you, you know, if you have arthritis, well, go get some CBG or CBN. Like, you go, he tells you to go take, you know, some over-the-counter drug for arthritis or your aches and your pains or whatever. This is going to be the way people medicate. You know, this is the way the medical schools are going to shift, and they're really going to spend more time in teaching these doctors about the endocannabinoid system that we have and the different cannabinoids that go with it. This is the way that people are going to medicate. And you can talk about, you know, medicinal and adult use and whatever, but I do believe that it should be in every medical cabinet in the country at some point, because the frustrating thing to me is when, you know, people get older, and particularly with your mother, your grandmother, your aunts, or whatever, and you go over to their house, and on their nightstand, there's all these medicines. You know, there's all these pharmaceutical medicine. You don't get off of them. You know, they actually increase, and that's the thing that takes you out. But why don't I get something that's natural, non-toxic, non-addictive, and can mirror and do some of the same things? And like you said, we've been medicating with this for thousands of years. And due to our idiocy, we got away from it for the last 80 years. But it's time. America and the world is going through a transitional time, and plant-based medicine is going to lead that way. We're going to get back to how our forefathers medicated, and that's with plant-based medicine.
Well, it's interesting. I agree. And one of the interesting conundrums that we see in our medical, you know, coming from the traditional pharma healthcare background, we have the opportunity to be one of the companies that helps bridge that gap between traditional pharma and cannabis. And we're very proud of that role that we're playing. And it always astounds me when I talk to physicians, and they don't really understand the endocannabinoid system. In most cases, they don't even know it exists. Medical schools don't even teach about the endocannabinoid system. They teach you the digestive, they teach you the neurology, they'll teach you everything except for endocannabinoid, because they basically took it out of the curriculum 100 years ago or 80 years ago or so. how do you think, what would be your advice to us as one of those companies bridging that gap into the front lines of the people, helping make that happen? What would you be advice to us to help us be facilitators of that?
It's about using your influence where you have it. If you want to talk about on the policy side, because the policy has to change, and we have to unlock this plant. The other part is education. That's what we're talking about, is education and setting up programs. And the thing that I'm excited about with cannabis, from the culture, from the business, from the medicine, we don't want to do business as usual. We can do a better business. So when cannabis comes into your community, you can kind of write it in and have some CE, continuing education for doctors and medical practitioners to come in and learn about, the endocannabinoid system, and learn how to prescribe and learn how to recommend plant-based medicine. Because like you said, it's been taken out the curriculum, and doctors, they only know what they're being taught. And they've been taught that, cannabis is, all these things from, that we were taught from the 30s on with reefer madness and all that junk. But this is medicine. And once they get behind it, once we get the medical community behind it, then the game is over. And one of the things that I say, and everybody in the cannabis world goes, I don't want big pharma in here. Well, I do, because I want the billions of dollars of R&D that they're going to put behind this plant. And we're going to see all the cannabinoids come out of this and being put to use. And like I said, in the future, they're going to look at us like we were cavemen, because we had all this and we didn't use it.
Well, not only did we use it, which is a great segue, but we put people in jail for it, and people of color at a rate 3 to 4 times as high. Let's talk about social justice. That's kind of the next phase. Now, clearly it's medicine, and people are still going to jail to this day and are still in jail. Talk to us about the Last Prisoner Project. I just love that story and your involvement.
Yeah, the Last Prisoner Project is an organization that's been around for a couple of decades, and it's about releasing all nonviolent offenders that have been put in jails and prisons for this plant. And you have some people that are in there for life, behind this plant. But then on the other hand, the government has a patent on it, the government grows it, and then you have other people that are making millions and millions of dollars, and then you still have people going to jail. So if you go back and look at the etymology of why this plant was made illegal, you can start with the 30s with Henry Anslinger, and the reason why he made it illegal, because it started when Prohibition ended and they needed to fill that revenue space up. So why not make cannabis illegal? And he wanted to go after, the Mexicans. So he started calling it marijuana to try to make it exotic, and go after the jazz players and what have you. But then once it came off, and in 1970, it could have been made legal, or it could have been made illegal and put on the Controlled Substance Act. And at that point, you had Richard Nixon, who wanted to go after 2 groups, the counterculture hippies of the late 60s, early 70s, who were rightly protesting the Vietnam War, and he wanted to go after African Americans. Well, he just couldn't come after these groups, so he had to find a way. So he put together this commission called the Schaefer Commission, bipartisan commission to study cannabis. And so they delivered the report back to him, and it said everything that we know about cannabis today, from it's not a gateway drug, it's not addictive, it doesn't degrade your community, it has medicinal benefit. He knew all this 45 years ago. He put it in a drawer. He went out and found a science that agreed with him, and the prohibition of cannabis, making a Schedule I drug, was introduced in Congress. Both houses signed and passed within a month, and that started the war on drugs in earnest. That particularly affected the Black and brown communities, because we went from 30,000 African American men in jail to the next year it went up to 250,000, and it's just been rolling ever since. It rolled with him, it rolled with Reagan and his war on drugs, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton signing the 3 strikes and you're out. George H.W. Bush coming in and his deal. Obama tried to give us some relief, but he really didn't give us any relief. We're still looking for relief. So we're either going to get it through the legislature or we're going to get it through the court. And one of the things I don't know if people know about me is I filed a lawsuit against the DOJ 3 years ago. It was against Jeff Sessions, but now it's Barr versus Washington and my fellow plaintiffs. Because the thing is, it's like, we have these kids that have these epileptic seizures and strokes, and then they take cannabis, and it goes from hundreds of them a month down to zero. You have the soldiers that are coming out the theater of war with PTSD and TBIs, and it helps them. But if they go to the VA, they're getting a bag full of these pharmaceuticals, and so they can't function as a human being. You got these athletes, particularly football players, that get the closed head injury and CTE. Well, the government holds a patent that says CBD is antioxidant and a neuroprotectant for the brain. You know, so that's why I filed the lawsuit, for not just for me, but for the kids, for the soldiers, for everybody that needs access to this plant as medicine. And right now we did an amicus brief, and that's Friends of the Court that wrote briefs for us, and we had 19 of them we had 9 of them from 19 different groups, like Last Prison Project, Americans for Safe Athletes, Athlete for Cares, NFL Wives, and what have you. And it was the most briefs that was submitted since 2008. And so the court is going to decide October the 9th if they're going to take our case or not. But we're trying to put our thumb on the scale a little bit by doing a campaign. So next week, I'll be on Fox and Friends with an audience of 1, telling him that in 2016, he said that he wasn't going to come after the cannabis, and he was going to leave it to the states. Well, that hasn't been true. But with this case right here, why don't you just tell the Solicitor General to stand down and let it be heard before the Supreme Court, and let the Supreme Court side. And I think we have a pretty good chance, because we're going after states' rights, which is a conservative issue, and then we're going to say it's unconstitutional, which is, you know, a pretty tight issue. So we're doing it, man, and we need all the positive energy that everybody can give us. And I feel like in Robert's court, you know, everybody says it's a conservative court, but, you know, you had the ACA Act affirmed, you had the LGBT community, you had their rights affirmed, you had the Dreamers, you know, they got their deal confirmed. So things can happen out of a conservative court if you come at it from the constitutional side and just state your case and state the facts. And that's what we're hoping about. That's what we're hoping on. But going back to the plant being illegal and the Last Prisoner projects, I want all the prisoners to come out, the nonviolent ones, behind this plant. All right. But I also want them to get their vote. You know, that's the first step. They got to get their record expunged. They got to get their voting rights restored. We got to give them an opportunity to work in this industry. We can't hold it against them. And we got to give them all the equity that we can, you know, and everybody's talking about what is equity, because that's misused in this industry. To me, is giving a person every opportunity he can to succeed. So what is it? So if there's a 12-foot light bulb you want removed, and you give me a 3-foot stool, I can, well, a 4-foot stool, I can remove it because I'm 6'6". But if you give the same stool to somebody that's 5'6", there's no way he's going to do it. So you got to give him the same opportunity to remove that light bulb as you do me, and that's social equity. And like going into the communities of color, we get this fund or cannabis fund, and we put the money back into the community. We can have manufacturing. We can regenerify our own communities. We can cut down on drugs and opiate abuse and alcohol abuse and all these things behind this plant, including domestic violence. Because if you talk to any police officer and talk to them about domestic violence, and you say, how many times has alcohol been involved? They'll say probably 99%. You just had Trump's ex-campaign member you get arrested and taken out because he had some issue with his wife and some other things, but there was alcohol involved. But how many times is cannabis involved? None. This is what we're trying to preach, and nobody's lazy. Nobody's a stoner. Nobody's going to be sitting on their couch all day, because you have people in this industry that are doctors, lawyers, attorneys, accountants, athletes, gone through school, you know, thrive at every level, and are medicating with this plant. sorry for
No,
going on my soapbox,
sorry
but
at all.
I'm
This is
passionate about
exactly
this.
what I want. This is exactly what we're looking for, is this insight. One of the things I want to talk to you about, and one of the things that we're doing as a company that we're trying to have our impact on social justice is, and I know this is a topic that's top of mind for you in terms of this entire subject matter, is a community garden is being planted in Americus for a real honest to God community garden. I saw the plans recently, and the hospital's involved, and it's a really, really neat project. We are going to be involved in that as a company, and I would love for any of the employees to get involved in that community garden as well. Another thing that I'll be getting involved with very, very closely is to try and get cannabis decriminalized in the city of Americus. I know that this is not an issue that's really, really complicated. And I think that having the support of this company and all these people on this call and people that are local in Americus to show up is very, very important. So when it's time for me to present to the City Council of Americus, we'll let people know. We want people to participate. Participation and voice of the people is very important in these conversations.
Yep.
And thirdly, planting hemp. You know, in Georgia, it's not an expensive license, and we want to get a hemp project together in some form or fashion, either attached to the community garden or some other fashion, to see if we can plant a hemp project to show firsthand, get our hands on the plant to see what it could do for our community. Because that's a way for Americus in Southwest Georgia to get ahead of the curve. It's not legal in Georgia, but hemp is. It's not a huge barrier to get involved in the hemp industry. Fort Valley State, right around the corner from us, actually has curriculum in hemp cultivation. It's only 45 minutes from America, so it's not like we don't have the resources to figure out how to do this. Give me your thoughts on that, and what other types of projects you've seen like that, and what it could lead to.
Well, I think we've talked before about this, and I've told you my thoughts on America's making a turn. And if you look, a lot of my friends are going vegan and vegetarian and growing their own food because we've been poisoned by processed food. That's another thing that we've been poisoned by, is processed food for the last 80, 90 years. And I think we're getting back to that because in most inner cities, they're food deserts. That they have to go 5-10 miles just to get some fresh food. And now it sparked in the community's head in Los Angeles and in New York City and Chicago. Why not grow our own? In Detroit, some of the abandoned auto plants, they're being used as gardens. That's the way you're going to heal the community, heal their environment, and change their environment by getting back. Because my friend says, and he's called the gangster garden, he says too many times in the urban communities, you have convenience stores, fast food, liquor stores, and dialysis center. And why is that? Because there's no fresh food. And I believe, like, during this chaos opportunity, just looking at social media and what have you, from my daughter and my ex-wife and my mother, my mother's been growing a garden, but you're starting to see all these young kids, the millennials and Generation Z, they're starting to grow their own gardens. And if they can do that from and grow their own gardens, then we need to introduce them to hemp. My family owns some land down in Arkansas. We own about 10 acres that's just sitting there. And so we're on these Zoom calls, and I'm like, why wouldn't we grow hemp? And first my aunt goes, well, nobody wants to grow marijuana, and then I have to explain it to her. And then once you explain it to her, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And showing the products that can come out of there, it's like CBD that comes from hemp. I think CBD is going to be the Trojan horse that gets inside the South, gets inside the Midwest, gets inside everybody, every section of the company. And then once they start seeing what CBD can do and CBG and CBN and all that, then we open up the belly and let THC out, But let's start them with CBD. It's not psychotropic. It doesn't get you high. It doesn't get you stoned. Has a lot of medicinal benefits. You can grow, and then with the hemp, you can grow your clothing. You can make clothing out of it and concrete out of it and whatever. But let's introduce the community to that first, and the country to that first, and then let's open up the belly and show them what this plant, the whole plant, can do. And that's going to make this thing make a turn, because we are getting back to natural things. Nobody's really going out, for the most part, living off of fast food, because we know what it is. When I grew up in the 70s, it was a TV dinners and fast food. Nobody thinks that's healthy anymore. Everybody knows. And during this time, this chaos opportunity of restaurants and what have you being closed down, people are cooking at home. And it tastes better, it's fresher, it's healthier, and it's better for the environment. It's better for the environment. So this is a chaos opportunity. It's a turn that the world is making. It's a turn that America's making. And I feel optimistic about it.
It feels so wonderful to hear someone feel optimistic. So many times it seems like such a.
We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this.
There are signs for those who have been to Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, where I live. There's signs all over town. An artist made everything will be okay. And sometimes when I'm walking my dog, I want to scream, "No, it's not. It's not okay."
Depends on the day with me, right?
We all feel that way sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
We had one question from one of our team members about nanotechnology and what role nanotechnology will play in the medicine of cannabis. And that's an interesting question, because that's really delivery of medicine. And that's really, the thing about this plant is you can vape it, you can eat it, you can smoke it, and there will be additional ways to ingest it as well. And nanotechnology is just a different delivery system. And that is really what we're talking about when pharma starts to cross with the plant. Tell us your thoughts on that.
No, I think, the easiest way I can tell people about nanotechnology is the difference between chewing your food and having it blended. It's the difference between, eating some fruit and having a smoothie. And it's just a delivery. But it's all about the bioavailability of it. When you're chewing it, and swallowing it, and it's going through, your esophagus and going down to get with stomach acid, you're losing some of the nutrients. But when you're nano-sizing it, there's more of it to get through, and so it doesn't, metabolize as anything or something. It gets there and it metabolizes in the lower intestine. So the bioavailability is higher than when you're just chewing it. So I think nano is another delivery of it. But as you said, there are so many ways that this plant can be delivered. When you're talking about cannabis, and people think you just have to smoke a blunt or something like that. There's so many delivery. When you talk about CBD, you can put it in your coffee, you can put it in your tea, you can have a transdermal patch, you can have it in an edible, you can have it in a cream, you can have it in a tincture, what have you. It's up to you, because everybody's body is different and whatever you're comfortable with. But nano is one of the options that is out there. And we have, in my company, we definitely have, nanotechnology.
Yeah, so tell us about that. That was a good segue. That was actually my next question, because that is some of the work you're doing on as a company, is the delivery system, which I expect Big Pharma will get into eventually. And
I welcome it. I welcome Big Pharma.
I agree. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, and let me say, when I say this industry, we're not an industry yet, because we're not federally legal. We're just a movement with a big economy behind us, a heck of economy behind us that's gone from, illegal and under fringe to essential. But, with my company, we started out as a bulk manufacturer seller, and you could buy a kilo of CBD and hemp for $99,000, and now the prices has dropped. And so we wanted to show people what type of delivery you can put it in, the different companies. And we have everything from a pet line to a medicine line to extreme line. We have coffee, teas, water, patches, vapes, what have you. And that it runs the gamut of deliveries. And that's what people need to be introduced to, because everybody thinks you have to smoke it, and you don't have to smoke it. And so that is when I introduce CBD to my family and friends. I always give them a topical. People are more likely to take a topical or a patch than they are to put something in their mouth. And then once they take a topical, then they're open to trying a tincture. That's in general. That's what most people will do, because people in this space, in this industry, we're always at these conferences when America was open. We're always at these conferences and whatever, and we're talking on a high level, but we're preaching to the choir. You know, go out, man. I went home to Texas, and I told somebody, a lady I was in the cannabis industry, she literally clutched her pearls because, you know, it's the cannabis industry. She didn't want kids to take it. And then once we started talking to them, telling her about the kids that have cancer and the epileptic strokes and seizures and how it's medicine, she kind of got it. So we have to take it out, man, and realize, like, everybody doesn't know about this plant, but let's introduce it to them and ease them into it, because we've been lied to for 80 years about this plant. And probably only 15 to 15% of society really knows about it, knows about the endocannabinoid system, knows about the different cannabinoids, knows about the different deliveries, knows about the medicinal benefit, knows about hemp and all the things it can do. That's when I go back to Texas or I'm traveling, I'm very careful, and you use the right language. You rarely hear me say marijuana, because I've gotten away from that. It's cannabis. You rarely hear me say recreational use. It's not. It's adult use. You know, and medicinal. Yeah, it's medicine, but everything is medicine. You go in Colorado and you go into a dispensary. What side is the medicine side? What side is the adult use side? There's a line straight down the middle of the floor. That's silly. We need to get away from that, and we are. You know, this space, this industry, really took off in 2012 when Colorado and Oregon went off and went adult use. That was 8 years ago. You know, I always say that. That's like the Wright brothers pushing the plane down at Kitty Hawk. We're not even in the twin propeller age. We're still basically pushing the plane down the propeller. We're not in the jet age or the space age. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're just placeholders for the next generation. The dynamic football player that's going to introduce this to middle America, he's probably in junior high or elementary school right now, you know, but we have to set some standards for him and leave a good environment so he can take that next leap and take it into the jet age, take it into the space age. And like I said, they're going to look back at us and say, man, what were they thinking? You know, what were they thinking? But there's going to be some people that they remember, and I hope it's people that are working for the good and doing good, and know that we were trying to take the lids and take the blindfolds off of people's eyes so they can see this plant for what it really is, and it's medicine, and it's environmental friendly, and it's going to heal us, and it's going to heal the planet.
One of the things we talk about in medicine, and doctors take a Hippocratic oath, and their part of the oath is to do no harm. And that's one of the things that's astounding to most medical professionals when they learn about it, is how little negative side effects there are from the plant, especially when managed correctly and introduced correctly. One of the things that we pride ourselves on in pharma, and one of the things that we talk about as a company quite often, is education. And how do you do that? And that's what we do on the phone. We engage, we educate, and we empower. And because we are in the propeller phase, it's a great opportunity for us as a company at Cannabis BPO and our sister companies, PharmaCentra and Concentra Solutions, to really take a leading role in that. What are some of the other ways that education can become a cornerstone of what we do, both as a community as well as a company?
No, I think it has to be. That's the most important thing. You know, I always tell people, everybody knows what CBD is, but nobody knows what CBD is. You know, and if they don't know what CBD is, you have to educate it, and don't overhype this plant. There's a lot of this in this industry that it can cure everything and is the be all end all. Well, it may be, but we don't know that yet. You know, but I do know it can make you feel better. I do know what it can and cannot do. I do know it can lower your anxiety. I do know it can take away some of your pain. Just stick to the facts. Don't go out and say, you know, it's a wonder drug, because there are enough people that are doubting this industry. You don't need to go out and add to it. You know, do not add to it, but just educate everybody. You know, the holiday seasons are coming up. Be an ambassador in your family. You know, sitting around at the Thanksgiving table. Have a conversation with somebody that knows nothing about them, and try to tell them about the medicinal benefits of this plant. From CBD to THC, tell them about hemp, tell them about all this, because people really do not know. They really do not know. And then a lot of people even mention it. They're going to be closed off because they've been taught They've been taught from Just Say No to from Richard Nixon, you know, and it's addictive, and from the 60s, it's a gateway drug, and far out, and all this, and cannabis, and whatever. It's not. It's not. It's a wonderful plant that has been here for thousands and thousands of years, and we've medicated with, we've used it. The hunters and gatherers, after they've been hunting all day, you come back home and pull something off the plant and chew on it. What do you think they were chewing on? You know, this is what we need to get back to. This is something that's natural, something that's non-toxic, non-addictive, but it's very important that we have education because, like I said, there's only 10 or 15% of the country that knows about this plant. Go to Iowa. Go and get outside of Fulton County and go in some of those little towns in Georgia and tell them about it. You know, this is what we have to do. And this, we have to educate not only the generation that's coming up, but we have to educate the older generation too, to give them some options and get them off these pharmaceuticals and benzodiazepines that are absolutely killing them. They're absolutely killing them.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, it's an area that I take particular interest in. Is how you can use this plant to not just avoid those more dangerous medicines that you're talking about in terms of opioids and benzodiazepines, which is Xanax and Valium, which are equally as dangerous, I believe, especially in combination. And so how we're seeing more and more evidence in how cannabis can prevent people. We see opioid deaths in Colorado drop by over 25% in this little 8-year experiment that we're seeing. And that's from an epidemiological standpoint, that's a pretty big number. I mean, you know, you get anything outside single digits, it gets pretty exciting. And then you look on the therapy side, and I see continuous, like a snowball growing on how to use cannabis to get people off of
opiates and heroin,
and specifically methadone, because methadone is just a replacement that doesn't get you high, but you're still addicted to it, stuck to it, and it handcuffs you as a member of society. And there are lots of protocols being introduced now using high doses of THC and CBD to get people off the side effects of withdrawing from methadone, which is extremely expensive and very difficult for patients. So talk to me about, you know, when we talk about healing society and how cannabis can heal, talk to me about your thoughts on specifically that sector.
No, well, you know, it's been proven that anytime cannabis goes into a community, the opiate addiction rate goes down anywhere from 15 to 25%, you know. So all these predictions about Colorado was going to be some vast wasteland of cannabis euphoria and what have you. It's not. Like you said, they're building roads, they're building schools, they're building parks and what have you. But one of the things that we need to do is start introducing this into a treatment program. You know, instead of giving them methadone, you know, like you said, give them a combination of a high strain of a THC and CBD. And there are a few treatment centers that are having success with this, but we need the education out to get more medical practitioners to embrace it and to use it, because we can't keep going down this opiate road that we're on, or we're going to lose a generation. You know, opiate is no respecter of any gender or community or whatever. It's hitting rural, it's hitting urban, it's hitting the coast, it's hitting everywhere. But if we have this as one of our treatment programs, I believe it can cut down on it. And one of the reasons why I got into it is because football players, ex-football players, ex-NFL players, there's 20,000 of us, and we're four times as more likely to abuse opiates than general society. So we know general society is getting their butt kicked. So what is it doing to my community? And this is one of the reasons why I stay on the NFL and continually say, man, you've got to give these guys an alternative to these opiate and benzodiazepines. You let the guys take Ritalin and Adderall for you know, their ADHD and ADD, and they put it on a therapeutic use exemption. I've been telling the NFL for the last 5 years, do that with cannabis. Do it with cannabis in the states that it's legal. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And so once it gets into the medical community, it's going to go from the doctors to the rehabs to what have you, and it's going to heal this nation. It's going to heal this nation. And one of the things I want to tell people is you're talking about the black market. How do we get rid of the black market? We have to saturate the community with legal cannabis. You have to. That's the way you're going to kill the black market, because if you don't have that much access to legal cannabis, the black market is going to thrive. You have to have it, and it's going to come in the next 10, 15 years. It's going to be there, and you're going to see the black market and the problems that come with it go away. The problems that come with it go away. But we have to start somewhere. Start with education, start with the medical practitioners, and then start as a treatment option for people that are addicted on opiates or heroin or fentanyl or what have you. Because in small samples, it seems to be working.
Yeah, and it's snowballing for sure. And there's a lot of science. And as many of you know, I traveled to Israel quite often until recently to attend conferences and meet some of the amazing physicians and scientists there. Which is in Israel, it's been legal for medicinal use for many, many years, and very robust because they're getting a ton of data out of the country now, and that's really what it's about is data. And clinical trials are different than observational data, and when you have 50,000 people in a longitudinal study to measure the effects, what they're finding is people aren't turning to opioids if they can use cannabis for their back pain or their PTSD. And so the opioid incidence and use in these countries where it is used robustly as medicine are truly better off than we are. We have a couple questions. One person asked, and this is a fabulous question, what are some of the resources, books, movies, documentaries? One of my favorite is I like the site Green Flower. They have amazing educational videos. The production quality is extremely high, and just about any question that you want answered, you could find. Marv, what are your favorite documentaries on the subject? And there's so many out there right now. I'd love to hear what you
know. What there's a channel out there. It's called 420 Media, and one of the things that the person did, and I actually know them, is that helped me. And if anybody's going on YouTube, just look it up. It's called 420 Media. It's educational, and she has nurses, she has doctors, she has natural plant people that come in there, and they just talk about the plant, because that's the key for me, and that's the easiest way that I was able to learn, is just by listening to other people and listening to it in an educated, very thoughtful way. And I absolutely love that channel. And there's a few books that, like the Encyclopedia of Cannabis, that I keep with me, that I'll pick up and put down and pick up and put down. But there are a lot of resources out there. There's over 20,000 research papers. There's 10,000 of them that are peer reviewed. Most of them are coming from out the country, and particularly in Israel. So there are some resources out there that you can find. And if you want to know about this industry, I say just be around. And every morning in my inbox, I'm getting all these updates from all these different cannabis trade shows, from MJ Biz and the Green Report and the Budding Report and what have you. And there's nuggets of information in there. And that's how I try to stay on top of it. That's why I try to stay on top of trends. They tell you about the DEA, they tell you what's happening in medicine, they tell you what's happening in society, they tell you what's happening in the industry. And there's a lot of bad players in this industry too, so watch out for them. But there are a lot of good people that are doing good. And so I just said there's a lot of information out there for people that want to learn about this industry, but devour it and eat it up, because once I started hearing about it, I just did a deep dive into it, and it's just kept rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah, there's a handful of documentaries. You can actually just Google within Amazon Prime, or some of the others, and Netflix. And I've been fortunate enough, because I've traveled all over the world. I've been fortunate to meet some of these people featured, including some of the patients featured in some of these documentaries. They're pretty inspiring stories. I mean, really, the people that started in this business as patients were really pioneers. One of the stories, when I learned to dive when I was in my early 20s, my dive master was a guy who was a Navy diver. And the way they developed the dive charts, how deep you could go for how long, was trial and error. They came up with the bends. They said, oh, don't do that again. That's how they made the dive charts. And these early pioneers of medicine were really doing very much the same thing in cannabis. But the neat thing about it is as we are learning, do no harm, cannabis is a high propensity to do no harm. And that's what makes it easy to experiment with. I'm looking for any other questions. One last question, then we're going to wrap it up. We're coming up on the end of the hour. If you have people, if they wanted to get into the space other than working for Cannabis BPO and some of the job openings that we have on a regular basis, what would you suggest? What would what are some of the areas that you think are going to be ripe, and how would you get involved with them?
Well, I always say, whatever skill set you have in corporate America, bring that here, because everybody, when people always come up to me and they say, I want to get into cannabis, and they say, what do you want to do? I want to own a dispensary. Everybody, well, who doesn't want to own a dispensary? But there's 12 different verticals that mirror corporate America in cannabis. I had a guy 4 years ago in LA that wanted to get in the industry, and he was coming from the limousine industry. I said, why don't you be a delivery driver? So you can go from marketing, branding, packaging. That's really strong. The marketing, branding, packaging, accounting. We need a lot of accountants. We need attorneys. We need everything, and whatever is your skill set, your strongest set is, bring that over into the cannabis industry. But the long story short is, 2 years later, I saw this guy, and he had workers. He was delivering all over LA County. So, there's plenty of entry points that you want to do, that you can do in cannabis, but find out something that you're comfortable with, that's strong with, because this thing is, I don't think the ground floor has been built yet. It has not been built yet because we're not an industry yet. I mean, there's going to be so much money. It's going to be the biggest wealth infusion that we've ever seen. It's going to be like $57 trillion that's going to come in here. There's going to be enough for everybody to do something, whether it's on your local level or your state level or on a national level, because this thing is going to be like, right now it's kind of a hot podge, and it goes from municipality to state or what have you, but it's going to get nationalized. But there's still going to be some opportunities there on the municipal, on the city level, and on the state level. But just find something that you're comfortable doing, whether it's growing, whether it's harvesting, whether it's making something, whether it's, like I said, marketing and branding. You look at some of these companies, they have great products, but their marketing and branding and label, it absolutely sucks. Sorry about that. But it's horrible. That's one of the things. So we need more people that are going to come in here, man. So just bring your strongest skill set into this industry, and you'll make it a better industry.
Thank you very much. I agree with you 1,000%. And the passion that I find in this industry, people are passionate about the plant, and I want to bring some of that passion to our business, not just Cannabis BPO, but our legacy businesses. I look forward as a community to getting our hands dirty with the community garden and planting hemp. I look forward as a leader of the community to help get cannabis decriminalized in the city of Americus. And I see we do have one city council member on this call. It is absolutely necessary as an easy first step to social justice. And we are proud as Pharmacentric and Central Solutions in Cannabis BPO to lead that charge, because we believe it means jobs. It means jobs to local communities like Americus. It means jobs to this country. And Marvin, I'm humbled and so grateful. Words don't express my gratitude for you joining us today. It means so much to me and our community that you took some time to meet with us and talk with us and inspire us. I look forward to seeing you again in person some point soon, eventually.
When America 2.0 opens back up, and I want to thank everybody from Marshall for giving me this opportunity. And I see Steve, Joe, Daniel, Rita, Kanisha, Reba, Amy, Craig Jackson, Kia Mabel, Jason, Iris, Tammy, Hisniz, Heather, Susan, and Johnny Wilson. Those are the people that I can see. Thanks for listening to me, and thanks for participating.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Joe coming in. What's up, Joe?
And when we do have a ribbon cutting, hopefully you can come to Americus and join us for that.
Oh, I will. Definitely.
All right.
This is good.
All right.
All right.
Everybody have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Gustavo.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Kia.
Thank you.